back to another episode of Chats from the Blog Cabin. You know, the show where I virtually invite people into the blog cabin to chat about life. And today we're chatting with Carew, who wrote the legacy letters. And Carew, first of all, let me say your first name is so unusual. I absolutely love it. So where did that name come from?
Well, first of all, it's great to be inside the blog cabin right now. So thank you so much, Melissa, for inviting me. And to go to your first question, Carew is a old family name. So it's a Welsh name. And I didn't have much choice in the matter, but I like it. Actually, it's funny because there's a castle in southern Wales called Carew Castle. So Carew in Welsh means castle overlooking water. So I am your castle overlooking the water of your blog cabin.
I love that. I wish there was a pond in front of the blog cabin. So let's talk about who you are before we get into the legacy letters.
You got it.
So
bit of a history here is pretty much raised in the Pacific Northwest, up in the mountains there. Was outdoor oriented, was climbing and skiing and sailing and kayaking and all these things. My dad and both my folks were teachers. My dad also was a ranger, so I was brought up in national parks. I was born in Yosemite National Park and then Teton National Park, Olympic National Park. So what a wonderful way to start, that outdoor life. My granddad had a small ranch north of Seattle when I was growing up. And then, so I had a bit of the cowboy background then, which is interesting for the latter part of that history, because that's what I ended up doing for a number of years.
Wow. But
by hook and by crook, I sort of went to school, worked in Alaska, went to school in Norway, I tried to get on the U.S. Olympic ski team as a cross-country skier, and then trained with the Junior Olympic team, worked as a freelance reporter in the Middle East. Like I said, a peripatetic. I love that word. We hardly ever use it, but just here, there, everywhere. I guess when I was 14, I made this very conscious decision. And it's interesting because it sort of goes to this whole legacy-driven mindset idea of really choosing a way to live, and fortunate enough to be, by the grace of God, being given this sort of way to look at life. I just wanted to live the most adventurous life I could. And really that was going to be the catalyst for almost everything I did. Now, that doesn't mean that was the easiest life and the most adventurous life. So I ended up applying to film school at UCLA. And I figured if I was going to go to film school, I was going to go to the one film school that I thought was the best film school in the world. Why film? Because it was a compilation of all the art forms. I had published several books in my late teens, early 20s. And I thought, well, I'm going to tackle this. Here's a new adventure. So off and running. I was driving tour buses up in Alaska, get a letter, says, okay, you've been accepted. And I was like, wow, all right. Because my other plan was, if I wasn't accepted, was to get a motorbike and drive down to the tip of South America. So I stopped in LA, and I ended up there for a while, never made it past LA. So I got my degree in filmmaking, got out into the feature film industry. I worked my way up. It's interesting because I've actually been doing interviews recently on the Rust shooting. Sadly, I have quite a bit of experience working on film crews. So I worked my way up. I worked on music videos like with Madonna and REM, low budget horrors and comedies, movie of the weeks, commercials. And then I started working on the features. I worked with Johnny Depp and Marlon Brando, if we're going to name drop here, which is sort of fun sometimes. And part of my time going through school, I was a bartender. So I bartended, get this, for Roseanne Barr's wedding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we'd go to Sting's house. I mean, it's so funny to say this. Oh, I went to Sting's house and, served drinks and all this hobnobbing and stuff. But what was interesting, Melissa, is that underneath it all, I began to sort of feel like, wow, this is the bright light city lights and the romance of the film industry and everything. It's all there, but at the same time, there's this sort of undercurrent of not sadness, but sort of spiritual exhaustion in a way. And I just began to look at this, and I remember asking this good friend of mine who worked at Universal Studios. And that was in the film portion, and he'd been there forever and ever, and he had a million great stories. If there's one thing working in the film industry, you have a ton of amazing stories. And I said, Bob, was it worth it? And his answer shocked me, because he said, no. And I go, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And I go, why? And I says, well, I missed my kids growing up, divorced twice, got all the toys, sold all the toys. Here I am at the end of my life, sort of lonely. And then I was like, wow. And then I began to see that crack in the facade, sort of the golden handcuffs of Hollywood. And especially for those that what we call under the line, which are all the production people. And it's a hard life. I mean, it's you work your tail off, minimum 12-hour days. And so I started driving around the West. And I love the western part of the U.S. I've been brought up in almost all the states in one way, shape, or form. And so like the Aborigines would do a walkabout. Well, I did a drive-about, and I started driving all over, sort of saying, what is it that I need to do? One of these soul searching trips. And it wasn't one trip. It was like I'd go out for a couple of weeks, drive around, come back, grab another job, go back. And this would go on for 6 or 7 months. And the last job I went out on, I ended up in Arizona in a 3-bar town, because that's how you count small towns, right? By the number of bars they have. And I asked for some work, and there was this old cowboy. She said, I got a fencing job. And I said, that's fine. I knew the basics. So I ended up near the border, up about 6,000 feet between these two mountain ranges, and talk about going from Hollywood to no lights at all. The bright lights of Hollywood to no lights at all, except under the stars. It was absolutely incredible. I ended up working on this job for 6 months, pretty much by myself. I had a pickup truck. My bath was a horse trough. Wow. The back of my pickup was where I began work on writing this book called The Legacy Letters. So as I like to say, if you're going to have a midlife crisis, have it early. So I had mine early, thank God. So this idea started to begin to bubble up in my head. And again, I haven't published in a number of years, but here I was out in sort of this Walden Pond time of my life, very alone, very, amidst nature, working really hard and just alone for days and days on end. And I started working literally at lantern light on the back of the pickup. I'm trying to create this romantic mood here, but it was an interesting time. It was an incredibly deeply reflective time, very not only soul searching, but honestly soul searching. Like, where do you want to take this part of your life next? Sort of like what empty nesters go through, as I read up on somebody. And you're going, wow, how do I go through this next deal? So the book, and to your listeners, very quickly, these letters are a fictional series of letters written by a father who had never lived to see his kids. And these letters become their practical, moral, and spiritual guidebook for the rest of their lives. Well, initially, I started out not with that brilliant concept, but with the concept of just writing these letters of wisdom, sort of like chicken soup of the soul. Mm-hmm. And I after about 6 months, I had 100 pages or so, and I said, okay, now I'm just going to sit down. I actually hand wrote that first part of the book, even before putting it on a computer, because I didn't even have the wherewithal to have a computer out there, of course. So it's all handwritten. So one night with a glass of whiskey, sitting next to the fire, sit down. Okay, I'm going to read it and see what I got. And I read through it and I get to the end and I go, this is horrible.
The build-up. I love that.
Horrible. what is this? And do you know what it was? It was what I call finger wagging knowledge.
Mm.
You know, it's just like, really? I thought this was brilliant. No, I don't even want to read it. And which says a lot. So I thought, but there's something here and I don't know what it was. And that began the search. And the search was these characters starting to come in, the father figure, the grandfather figure, the being up in the cabin, the words, you know, these letters being left behind for the kids on their 10th birthday because of this separation between he and his wife, this great love of his life, which becomes another element, another mysterious element of the story. I mean, how could you break apart? And which is another fascinating part of how people have responded to this. Because at one point, I literally thought, oh, I saw the difficulties of creating this sort of love story separation idea. And I thought, gosh, this is shaky. I don't know, because people might think he just ran away. Well, he ran away to die, but he ran away from his wife who was still pregnant. People are going to go, yeah, I wouldn't do that. Well, guess what? I asked so many women about that. And I said, what do you think about this? And this one woman summed it all up. She goes, we own tragedy. And I was like, wow. And she's like, this makes sense to me. And the greatest difficulty I had were the guys. Guys were like, whoa, that guy's a dog. I would have never left. I would have come down from the cabin. You know, I'm like, really? Wow, what a flip. So I decided to go with it, as opposed to the one thing where he was in an airplane, he crashes up out in the outback of Alaska, and he's in a cabin, he dies there. Now, it didn't work. So it reflects the complexity of these letters, where this man is writing to his kids at 10 years of age. And he begins to see that I'm not going to write about simple things. I'm going to write to the entirety of their lives. So then we go from, you know, how to be a good person, how to say thank you and please, all these sort of simple things. And he's starting to open up to talking about marriage and travel and being a man of your word. I mean, all these amazing things. And the book that you have is the appetizer to the bigger book. So I didn't want to put out the 650 page, 200 plus letters, because I thought this could just become a doorstop. You know, people had to sort of get used to this idea. And now what you have is 40 of the over 200 letters written that the children wanted to give to the world. And so that's where we're at. And so finished the book out on the ranch. Oh, well, and we went from the fence job. I ended up getting another job out there as a foreman on a ranch, which means I was the only person. When I say foreman, it sounds really prestigious. No, I was pretty much a ranch hand. Same area, and very desolate, but I was in charge of taking care of the cattle. I cowboyed for 5 years, writing this book at the same time. Fortunately, I did not have to go looking for my wife. My wife came to me. She came out on a horseback pack trip. A buddy of mine said, I need a wrangler. And so I wrangled her through a big rope like this. My wife hates it when I say it. She goes, come on, that story's so old. Yes, but people in the blog cabin have not heard it. So then we got married at the ranch, and been married, similar to you, 22 years. We have a son. It's been fantastic. And it's been a remarkable life. This turn of events with the book, winning a number of awards, becoming a bestseller, and all this good stuff. And I don't say that lightly. It's been hard, as you know, building up a fan base of people who want to hear what you have to say. So I know I made that really long, but that's the intro.
I love that intro. Now let's take a brief commercial break, and then we'll be right back to talk about the legacy letters.
Sounds
Do you
good.
actually have your book with you that you can read a part of it when we come back?
Yep,
All right.
you got it. Okay.
All right, here we go.
Branding yourself begins with self-reflection. Taking stock of your strengths. Is there a particular talent that helps you shine? In this series, founder of Pierre Branding Group, Lydia Pierre, sits down with the executives and entrepreneurs to shed light on why it is important to brand yourself and get ahead.
And we are back talking with Carew, the author of The Legacy Letters. Oh, where'd it go? I will say that when I was reading this, I was like, and I told you this before we went on, is that I actually had to stop several times and keep going back to this is fictional, this is fictional, this is fictional, because you're like right in the depth of it. And actually, honestly, I'm a big Yellowstone fan of the TV show Yellowstone. So a lot of the characters in Yellowstone I kept seeing the characteristics that they have in this book as well.
Wonderful. I like that. Yeah, that's a heck of a compliment. That's a great show.
Yeah. So before we went to break, I asked you if you would read part of the book. So are you ready to read?
Yeah, I would love to. So I've got several ones, and I noticed that you love. Well, we can either go. I'm going to give you a choice. So wait, you know what? I will do something. So I've done a lot of book signings, and after a while, I have to tell a quick brief story on this because it's really fascinating. It speaks.
Go right ahead.
All right. So I'm at a book signing, and usually it's like the scary author over there. No one wants to approach you until there's a line, and then everyone wants to approach you. So this was a little slow on this day at this Barnes and Noble. And so I was like, oh, please come on over. There was a mother and a son. And the son was about 14 or something like that. I said, come on over. Meet the scary author. And they're like, okay. I just like, and they came over, and then she goes, okay, what's your book about? So I explained what it was about. And she says, oh, that sounds interesting. And I said, interesting. Let me take the interesting knife out of my back. The whole, the interesting, really? Okay. I said, look, I'm going to do something that's never been done in the history of publishing. I'm going to guarantee this book. And she goes, how do you guarantee a book? And I said, I guarantee if you pick up this book, you turn to any page in it, you'll turn to the next page, or I'll give you your money back. And you haven't even bought the book. So she goes, sure. So the kid's on his cell phone, he's doing his stuff. And I said, you too. So she picks up the book. Second page, third page. I'm going, oh, okay, this is it. She puts it down and she says, I'll take two. And I said, huh?
Wow.
And I was like, wow. Okay, that's great. And so she goes over to pay for the book, and the kid's still reading. And I was like, and I said, hey, I don't want to interrupt you, but what gives? I didn't even think you'd, continue to read, let alone keep reading the book. And he turns to me and he says, I don't have a dad. I wish the guy in this book were my father.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, the whole reason.
Okay, we kind of lost him for a minute. So let's see if he comes back.
I'm back here.
Yeah, you're back. Okay, you said at the part where you're talking about the dad, and though the kid said that he didn't have a dad.
He didn't have a dad. And he says, I don't have a dad. I wish the guy in this book were my father. So that was a dramatic pause. We shouldn't have cut out at that point.
I know. It's like, wow, he's right in the middle of this great story.
Oh my gosh. And so, Melissa, what's happened is I would do this almost at every book signing, and some amazing inspiration would come out from someone reading any page. And literally on that very same day, I did it again. And this guy picks out there's a letter on working. You probably already read it if you've already gone through the first third of the book. And he picks it up, and he ended up buying like 5 books. I was like, what the heck have I stumbled onto here? And I said, what gives? Why? He said, you were talking about, I think the phrase in the book is work like you're shining God's shoes. Meaning, you don't do it for anyone but yourself, and for, that's it. You work, you do your best work. And it doesn't matter who you do it for. You're doing it like as if it was God, type of thing. And this guy brought it up, and he said, I couldn't believe I read that because I just got my first raise in like 5 years, and I asked the boss, and it just happened like 2 hours ago, and it's so interesting stuff from there that I'm amazed at the response of the honest response that people give, not just honest, I mean soul bearing response, which I believe came from where it was written. So with that being said, let's put on the old spectacles here. And I figured we would start with marriage. Just like, really? Yeah, let's try the marriage one because we've been talking about that, right? So this letter is called To Make a Marriage Live or Die. So I'll read, this is a small portion of little ones. And he always, since he didn't know his children's name, he would always call them little ones. So that was part of the introduction for all of you that hopefully will be reading the book. Little ones, as I see it, you get married, but you make a marriage. Some folks think that once they're married, they've already arrived in Paris where you drink chilled wine, picnic in the park afternoons, and somehow evening roses bewitchingly appear by the bedside, and you step feather-heeled, strolling through dusky and swoon-filled romantic nights, and somehow you forget that to get to Paris, you have to travel to Paris. Marriage is not the beginning of the journey nor the end. It is the journey, where you decided by some magical and incandescent flicker of the flame that the journey of life was made somehow better, deeper, richer, more fulfilling by experiencing it with someone else. And that making sure that that magic never wanes and the flame never dies is your most important responsibility to each other. But the strangest thing happens on the way to making a marriage. The romance begins to rust. The love loses its luster. The friendship flounders and the magic becomes musty. What happened? You expected Casablanca and you got the honeymooners. Somehow and somewhere in our foolish quest for a forever love, we forget that for silver to shine, you have to constantly polish it. And when you don't, the silver tarnishes. Marriage is love put to its ultimate test, the grindstone of life, where the idealism of love meets the everydayness of marriage. Yes, you started out simply as each other's lover, companion, and friend, but now you are a couple, a corporation, a legal entity, an island unto yourselves, a family, a social grouping, a Mr. and a Mrs., and 2 peas in a pod. You are now the breadwinner, the baby maker, and the sitter, the maintenance worker, the repairman, the short order cook, the financial analyst, the bookkeeper, medical staff, the mechanic, and the gardener. You are the teacher, taxi driver, sanitation worker, spiritual advisor, vacation planner, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, mother, aunt, uncle. Did I miss anything? And you wonder why the lightness of love becomes the elephant of resentment, inexorably stomping up your backside to someday establish a permanent perch.
Wow. Wow. And the whole list, I love the way you just went through the whole list, because that's a lot of people don't realize how many hats they do wear, and that does affect your relationships. What made you decide to write it as a dad writing it to his children that he didn't know?
You know, that's such a great question. I just, that's sort of what was the aha moment. You know, it's like, whoo, okay, right this way. But what was interesting, I think the most interesting part was as the dad had to grapple with what he was communicating to the kids. And initially, like I said before, it was very simple ideas. You know, how to say please and thank you. This is one of the letters in the book that actually inspired National Thank You Letter Day, which we can get to a little later. But I think when you're trying to describe, I don't know, you're putting together a manual of life, which we all do sort of do for our kids, but we live it every single day. Well, how do you write that down? And how do you create this guidebook in a way that's not boring, that's practical, and yet comes from your life's wisdom and what you live? when I wanted to burn these letters, and then thank goodness I didn't, which I knew I wasn't going to, I realized that when you tell a story, one of the oldest ways to communicate knowledge or wisdom is through a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you take a look at the Bible is a classic one. I mean, if you go back to caveman days, you go, oh, there's a bear up there. But if you sit down and you say, you know, your uncle and I, his leg got ripped off by a bear. Now that bear's up there, and you tell the whole story how it got ripped off. You know, kids' eyes are like, whoa, okay, I'm not going up there. The bear's up there. So once I started to incorporate the stories of how this wisdom came about, then they really started coming alive. And the wisdom became, it wasn't finger wagging anymore. It came from a place of importance to this man to give to his kids. Great question. Great question.
Wow. Now, going back to the very beginning, you said you were on the production side of movies. Do you ever think that Legacy Letters would become a movie? Because I can see it set up as a movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's funny you talk about, so for years, I tried to figure out the movie of it. Because you can, there's a lot of ways to go with this. But one day it suddenly dawned on me, the movie. And for those of you, supposedly the greatest movie of all time is Citizen Kane. And if you've ever seen it, you understand it's about trying to unravel a man's life. A very famous man, this publisher, and why he said the words rosebud, you know. Again, for those of you who have seen it, for those of you that haven't, it was a reporter that went back and tried to figure out who this rosebud was. But what it became was peeling back the layers of this man's life and peeling back the layers of who we are as where we come from. So the whole movie premise is this book has done this incredible thing. It's been out for years, and this reporter is sent on, well, go find out who the real man is, not the man in the book. I mean, the man in the book is the real man, but there's more to him, and find out why he's separated from his wife if you can. And so then it becomes that going back in time type of thing to bring it to the present. So that's the movie. And I've actually done the structure for the screenplay and been working on that. So, yeah.
Wow. Because I can totally, I can't wait to see it if it comes out. I mean, I'm talking into existence right now. It's going to come out because it reads well. So I can just imagine. Now, who would be your dream characters in the movie? Dream people to play? Yeah.
Oh, I think I'd like to play the lead. So why not? That's an ego like this, right? Okay. I don't know. I mean, I've acted a bunch of a fair deal, and so that would be fun to try it out, see if it was fly. But oh gosh, I don't know. Who do you think would be?
I keep going back to the Yellowstone characters.
Oh, true. Well, Kevin Costner. Shoot.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't hurt my feelings if Kevin Costner played me. So.
Now, you mentioned earlier that this is just like a short version of the bigger books. Do you think you'll ever release any more of the letters and have it to Legacy Book 2, 3, 4, so forth and so on?
Wonderful question. This book has done so well. I actually thought about bringing it out in segments, but no, the big book is already written. And what I wanted it to do is I wanted to create enough excitement around the little book, and the little book really has done it. I mean, again, I've been so blessed of, the number of awards it's won and the amount of attention it's gotten over the years and the great reviews, and it just goes on and on. I just feel very, very fortunate to have been given that insight into how to write a book like this. But no, the big book's ready. And gosh, pre-COVID, I was just going to bring it out. I mean, I was going to pitch it out and to the publishers again, and I was in a great place to do it. And then of course, COVID punched a hole through the universe. And so now I'm back on that track again. So yes, I'm hoping within the next year or so, we're going to see that big book out in a big way.
In a big way. Oh,
in a big way.
Oh, that sounds like you have lots of plans for that one.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, and too, I've got to tell your listeners sort of an interesting part that came out about this book. So being raised in the outdoors, I love being outdoors. And so I'm doing all these book signings, and one could say, well, that's neat. I go, yeah, it's neat. And it sells books and you get out, and I love meeting people, I'm a people person. But there was something missing. And I thought, gosh, I just want to be outdoors. I thought, well, wait a second. Why don't we do book signings outdoors? Well, wait, why don't we do something better? Why don't we walk the talk of this book? The central theme of this book being living life to the fullest. So, well, why don't you go do it? Okay. I said, all right, what do we do? Well, let's do a book signing on horseback in front of Barnes and Noble. Guess what? The horse I got married on, the horse I worked on, Boots, and you can see it on my YouTube channel. And there it is. And so I created these first ever book signings. And so not only was I on horse, but I did the first ever digital book signing. And I actually pressed the button and it set it up there, and it was digitally signed in the whole 9 yards, all on the back of a horse. Wow. And so now I've done book signings on top of Mount St. Helens, on a glacier in Alaska. We did a whistle stop tour along the entire East Coast on Amtrak. First ever book signing in Cuba, post Castro, when it opened up, and I had a book signing there. I mean, it goes on and on river rafting, all these things. And out of that, I decided, wow, why don't I get kids excited about reading? So I created this series called the I Love to Read series. And so I'll be reading this book, Back to the Horse. The first one was on the back of Boots. And I'll be reading like this. I love to read and I love to ride, and I'd spur the horse and off we go. And actually that one's funny because every single take we did it, Boots would fart, and you can hear it like this. You're kidding. So we left it in there, and that's one of the first ones. So if you go to the website, if you go to the YouTube, you'll see it, and it's really funny. But I've done things like I'll be fly fishing, or I'm driving a go-kart, or I'm in front of the Acropolis in Greece, or I'm mountain climbing, or it's just the whole gamut. There's a whole bunch of them, and ended up getting several million views off of all these I Love to Read deals, because we're getting kids in schools to watch them and to question why is this guy doing it, or where is he doing it, or how is he doing it. So it's been really fun.
Wow, it sounds like you do have big plans. I mean, what made you decide to sign books on top of Mount St. Helens? I mean, obviously, that's just like the adventure seeker in you, that you're just like, what else can I do next? And it's like, what can I top next? What can I top next?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, back to that idea that I really, yeah. Oh, wait, there is some more coming up on how to top that. But it really is that idea of walking the truth of your life, I guess, if you want to put it in the bigger spiritual terms. But I just like, wow, I'm outdoors and I'm signing books on a mountain. Oh, and I did a radio interview up there at the same time. They go, I can't believe you're up there doing that. I go, yeah, we're signing books. And granted, if you sign 5 books, you've had a book signing. I put it out there, and whoever appears is who appears. Yes. But it's on a glacier in Alaska. That's the same thing. It's like, well, if you show up, well, heck, get 13 people, and they all showed up. So it's part of a deal. But no, I'm not done with that by any stretch of the imagination. I'll keep topping that, and so stay tuned.
Wow. So COVID really made you think outside of the box.
Well, this was all pre-COVID.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. This was all actually, COVID sort of shut things down for a while, and I had to, it was hard really with anybody, it was hard to do much of anything. So, so I had to, but yeah, this was like previous 5 years to COVID that all these things were being done.
Wow.
Including National Thank You Letter Day. Can I talk about that?
Go right ahead. I had it on
already to it. Coming up November 14th. What's National Thank You Letter Day? Guess what? Do we write thank you letters anymore? People, no, I don't write. So my son, of course, he has really learned to write thank you letters, because it's like, you're going to write a thank you letter for your Christmas present, your birthday, whatever. So this age-old art, and the reason I brought it up was because I thought this is, it's a wonderful way to express gratitude and manners and kindness. So for the first year, which I think was 4 years ago, come to think about it, we created the world's largest handwritten thank you letter, the size of a basketball court. in our local middle school, elementary school. And if you go to nationalthankyouletterday.com, you'll see it. And it was a big hit. And it was written by the cursive writing class. I asked them what they were thankful for, and they came back and wrote a whole bunch of lines, and I incorporated those into the letter. It's a very simple letter, but it's literally all handwritten, and it's huge. And so you ask, well, what do you do with the world's largest handwritten thank you letter? You have to send it. Right? I mean, what else are you going to do? The next year, we sent it. We created the world's largest envelope and the world's largest stamp. The local post office sent it to our sister school down the road, and we unveiled it. So we literally have it. It's literally postmarked.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and every year we're trying to do something different. And this year it's called Thank It Forward, trying to thank, all the people that are involved in our lives, of course, that helped us during the pandemic and still are helping us, but also to the people that matter in our lives. Like paying it forward, we're thanking it forward. So, and just in sort of instructions on how to write a thank you letter. You don't necessarily have to, send a letter. You can actually hand it to somebody, but it should be on paper and it should be handwritten, because literally that's the gift of your time that gets held within that letter. And that's one of the reasons that thank you letters are so valuable.
That is so true. I remember when our oldest daughter got married, she actually wrote, her and her new husband, because they live in California and we're in North Carolina, they wrote a thank you letter to my husband and myself for, paying for the wedding, for,
Oh my gosh,
incorporating everything that they wanted and kind of letting them have their own way, what they wanted, because they wanted it small, intimate. Whereas if you're in a Hispanic household, it's normally a huge wedding if anybody's involved in that. So
all right, yeah.
They wanted it very small and very intimate, and the fact that every little detail, because trying to plan a wedding when your daughter lives on the West Coast and you're on the East Coast and the wedding's taking place on the East Coast, you can imagine who did a lot of the running around and finding the places and contacting the people for the venue. But that meant the world to me, was for them to actually, wasn't expecting one, but them to actually write a thank you letter.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for everything you did.
That's amazing. And when you hold that letter, it's a physical thing. It's as opposed to, I would do this thing on Valentine's Day and about why it's important to send out a physical Valentine's Day letter. I mean, it's that powerful, and you get to hold it. And again, it incorporates, if the most valuable gift you have in life is the time you have on this planet, then you literally, the writing of that is putting the time onto the paper, and you're literally holding someone's time. I mean, that's a wild thought. And so within a thank you letter, you're holding the time it took for them to do that, as opposed to spat. Oh, that's nice. I got a thank you text. Man, you're going to hold on to that thank you letter.
You're probably going to delete it because of phone storage.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Going back to your thank you letter, it reminded me of something that I did when I'm a former teacher. And one of the things that we did was I taught K through third grade, or K through second grade, actually, music. So a lot of these kids couldn't really actually physically write a letter. So what I did was we did a thank you tree, and we did a huge tree, and each one of the leaves, each one of the kids wrote something they were thankful for, or drew a picture of something they were thankful for. So it was all over, and it was like took up the whole hallway where all these leaves were all different colors, because I picked out all different colors, because
I love that. I absolutely love that. Oh, what a great idea. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to credit you with that. Put that on the website and say, no, absolutely. Think of that. I love trees. So my gosh. And it's so simple, and it's got a bit of a dramatic flair to it. So,
and I tied it into one of the music lessons. I forget which music, but I just remember the tree just stood out, and the kids had the best time, and they would go by. It wasn't in the main hall because the principal didn't see the vision to begin with, but she wished at the end that it was in a main hall where everybody can see it.
Yeah.
But it was kind of tucked away on one of the little outshoots of the building, that the kids would go by and try to find their thankful and see who else wrote what else they were thankful for.
Oh,
and you wouldn't believe some of the things they were thankful for. Most were mom, dad, parents, but some were like Legos, some was like their dog, some was like the type of food they like.
Yeah.
Some even said the teacher that they liked. I mean, everything. You wouldn't believe it.
It's so cool. And actually, along those lines, we had the postmaster actually gave us 600 postcards, prepaid postcards to send out, and the kids wrote and wrote letters to their parents or whomever, and it was a great exercise in how to write a thank you letter or thank you note. And so I wasn't expecting anything, and I got it. I got one. And hold on, I'm going to grab it because it's really, really something. Let's see here. Oh, bear with me. Okay. Oh, it's so bad. So my son wrote this, and he goes, "Dear Mom and Dad, thank you for all the wonderful times I've had with you. I love you, and I'm so glad I was born into this family. P.S. I would write more, but I can't. The postcard is very limited. Love." And our son.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, whoa, it works. I got a taste of my own medicine, and I loved it.
And I love how you held on to it too. How old was he when you wrote that?
Oh my gosh, 4 years ago. So he was 11.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's like, I'll carry that with me the rest of my life. That's from the heart. Right. And I guess that's how you write a thank you letter. It really comes from the heart. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. And I love how you combine the legacy letters into the National Thank You Letter Day. I love that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just almost a natural extension, isn't it? I mean, and the inspiration for that was that wasn't teaching a cursive class. I was doing something in cursive class, showing them the importance of writing a letter or something. And all of a sudden I was reading part of the book, and I said, "Whoa, what do you guys think about creating the world's largest thank you letter, the size of a football field?" And they were like, "Yeah, Mr. Papritz, let's do it." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." Sure, I'll do it. And I really thought about doing it on a football, but thank goodness, because it was tough enough to do it the size of a gym.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, so we pulled it off, and it was still amazing.
Now, I want to know how you got the post office involved in it, because that logistics of trying to get the post office involved, I imagine there was some red tape, or maybe not.
No, we're a small town here, and you would go there and say, "Oh, she just loved the idea." Her name was Donna Bird, and she's the postmaster. And so she backed it all the way. And you just can't mail an envelope and the whole nine. And the stamp was 25 by 15 feet.
Wow.
And it says National Thank You Letter Day on it. Let's see. Do I have it here? I wish this was actually the poster from the first year. So that's the letter right there, the world's largest thank you letter. And that's the whole deal. I just had it here, but the stamp was huge. So we literally had to fold it like a burrito, a gigantic burrito. And on the website, it shows the kids carrying it. We had to have like 15 kids or 20 kids. I don't remember. We had to take off doors to the gym.
Wow.
And then we stuffed it in the back of the postal truck. It went out, and then we had to pull it out and then, unveil it to the sister school. So it was delivered. So it was official.
I want to know the look on the sister school's face. How did they receive it? Were they like, wow? Because they knew that was coming, but they didn't know how big it was.
Oh, right? Yeah. And especially we're unveiling it, we're pulling it back, and like anybody who sees it, it's just like, whoa, what the heck? And we had a drone there too. My son operated the drone as it's flying. They're like waving to the drone, looking at the letters. So it's just this big, wild hoopla.
I love that. And each year, have you topped it since you've done that big letter? Have you topped it?
Oh, not yet. I've been sort of, someone said, "What about the world's largest, mailbox?" I go, "Okay, all right, hang on, guys. Let's one thing at a time." But yeah, I'm thinking. I wanted it to come out. We were in negotiations to bring it out at halftime at the U of A, the University of Arizona football game, which would have been really cool. But again, that stuff sort of fell apart. So,
wow, I love how.
Do you know what we were going to send it to Ellen DeGeneres, because she's the closest. We were going to send it to her show and unveil it. And we were working with the producers, and they were hot on it, but it didn't. I was like, oh, come on, guys, it would have been so cool,
Would have been cool.
National television, but c'est la vie.
But you can still possibly do it. You could just show how they did it in the past.
I like your thinking. All right, we got to team up here.
I mean, because I'm sure with all your connections and with other people's connections, there's somebody out there that's willing to do it.
Oh yeah, I agree. And when you find that somebody, then the world just opens up, right?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I like your thinking.
So let's talk about how have you written a thank you letter to your parents? Because you said you got one from your son. Have you written one to your parents?
You are so good. You're going for the juggler now. So no. And but I've been working on it. I've been not only thinking on it, I've been working on it. And it's sort of maybe I shouldn't belabor it so much. Maybe it should be just a simple you know what? You've inspired me. National Thank You Letter Day is coming up. I'm going to do that letter. Because sometimes I think we get so caught up in trying to make it over the top or whatever that you lose the forest from the trees, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That was just handed to me from on high, from the blog cabin, coming over to me. So that's my job. I love it. That's great. You inspired me.
I love that. So our time is almost up, but where do you see yourself going forward with the legacy letters, with the bigger version of it coming out? How is that going to look like with COVID? Because still some places are still not opened up.
Yeah, I think if it's coming out within a year, then I think things are going to be a lot better at that point. So, I mean, the time it takes for a book to come out, but in the meanwhile, I am still doing these wonderful interviews and meeting these wonderful people. And that's what you do. You just keep talking about life. You keep talking about, the book and reading from it, and then just inspiring people to live their best lives and live their lives to the fullest. So I don't think that's in no small measure, that's really, it's a wonderful way to live.
That is so true. Now, you mentioned something at the very beginning I want to just tap on real quick. You talked about people were interviewing you because of what happened with Alec Baldwin and Rust. So let's talk about how people found you through that, because obviously, you don't you're not in that world now.
No, but I think it comes back to I have a lot of connections, and they knew that I worked in that. And actually, interesting, Fox Entertainment picked it up. It really blew up. If you put in Carew Papritz and Rust, you'll see it. It's a good interview because it really goes to the heart of it's not the shooting, it's how a film shoot breaks down and goes south. And it happened to me several times. And I was working on one shoot where I was both the driver driving back and forth on location from Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona back to LA once a week, and then coming back, and I was a set dresser in the art department. So here I am putting up set dressing and doing all that. And came back from a trip, 2 a.m. We had a 6 o'clock call. I'm putting up tire chains in this garage out in the middle of nowhere. And I fall and I hurt myself. And it's like, and I'm on a non-union shoot. And so it's like, all right, we'll take care of you. But it wasn't as the reason that union shoots are really important is because of the safety issues, let alone getting paid and all this. And so when I first heard about this, I immediately thought this is a union, non-union problem and a shoot that's gone south because they are just jamming these people. I looked it up, and sure as heck, it was exactly like I've experienced it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And very sad. Very, very, very sad. And Melissa, the last thing I always say about that is when I had my crew with me, the guys that work with me, I just said, guys, do not hurt yourself. This is a movie. It's make believe. No one should ever get hurt on a movie shoot. And so with that being said, this should never have happened in a million years. You should never be hurt on a shoot. Never, ever, ever, ever.
That is so true. Now, do you have one last little nugget that you want to leave us with?
Oh, there's always the one last thing. Do you want me to just read a quick paragraph from the book?
If you want to, go for it.
There's that, because I noticed how much you love to travel. So I've got a nice little thing on traveling. Oh, you know what? Oh, maybe we should. Oh, we're talking about, let's do start the day. Oh, okay. So this is the letter called Starting the Day. Sometimes we make being happy so difficult and being thankful such a chore. Starting the day like a job we hate. Beginning it like swallowing 10 tablespoons of devil-made cough syrup. Because somehow along the way, we forgot that being alive and healthy and happy are noble goals or just good ideas. And then the opposite of being alive is being dead. What a choice. Mm-hmm. So open the day like a Christmas Christmas present waiting, or a puppy needing petting, or a new kiss a wanting. Open the back door, step out into the back and onto the porch, and greedily suck in some new air from this new day. It's free, and there's lots of it. Start with a brand new good morning to your husband or your wife, to your kids, to those you work with and don't work with. What's the harm? How difficult is it? And it isn't, and you know it, so do it and make it a habit. As hokey as it may sound, you have it good. You just have to remember how good.
Oh, I love that. And it goes right along with gratitude, with November being National Gratitude Month. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell people where they can find you at.
I think the easiest way is to go to thelegacyletters.com. Check out the monster Amazon. Of course, the book is on there. You guys have already taken a look at that. There it is. And it's really it's a lovely present. Mm-hmm. And people love to touch it. And it's got old paper in it. And it's just really super. Check out that YouTube channel, Carew, or the Carew Tube. You can go there. And all those fun videos are all over there. So especially the I Love to Reads and stuff. And they're a hoot and a holler. Give them a look.
Oh, I love that. So, Carew, thank you so much for sharing the legacy letters with us. Even though, guys, when you read it, you will have to stop and think a couple of times, wait a second, this is fiction? Because it reads like it's somebody's actual diary that they're writing to their kids. And I absolutely love it. And I can't wait to read the whole big version when it finally comes out.
Oh, I can't wait to show it to you. We'll have to revisit then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll have to show it up because, guys, this is the book here. It's actually, I don't want to say it's a quick read because to me, it's thought-provoking. Mm-hmm. So that's why I would say it's not a quick read because it's thought-provoking. Like you can read one little section at a time and just sit in it for a while.
Yeah, it's interesting. Someone called it a nightstand essential. And I love that. I mean, it's really a comfort food book. That's another phrase that's used. But what's nice is these letters don't take long to read. And it's not as if you're reading a beginning, middle, end type of book. You get that sense of it. But it's so easy to read. And everyone, almost to a person, says, wow, I hadn't thought about that. Or you reminded me of this important thing in life. And I love what you just said, because I think that really, it's one of the best features of the book. That it's not like I have to read the whole thing at all. You don't. And literally, for fun, pick it up. If you get a hold of the book, open it up to the first, do what I said, do the magic thing, do the magic legacy thing. Open it up to the first page and see what happens. Not the first page you open up to, and see if that works.
Yeah, and plus too, it's great. Like if you're in the carpool line, you can read just a little section while you're waiting and things like that. So you're not having to stop and pick up where you left off and try to figure out, okay, what happened here, what happened there, what happened next. The storyline, it kind of reads itself. Each letter kind of contains in itself.
Melissa, did you say carpool line?
Yeah, carpool line.
Look at this. It's a carpool page turner.
Love that. So, Carew, once again, I want to thank you for being on. And guys, I will put everything in the show notes where you can find the book, as well as all the different places you can find Carew at. Carew Tube, as he said, and also the link to National Thank You Letter Day, because I think that's really important as well.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It was so much fun being at the blog cabin. Again, next time we do this, we're going to have to be out on our respective porches, right?
Yeah, maybe not, because we have dogs in our neighborhood that like to come out and bark when I'm outside. So that's why I'm inside most of the time.
Okay, gotcha. It was such a pleasure, and happy Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you. And guys, be blessed. And most importantly, keep chatting and write those thank you letters.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Bye.